And breaking news just in, ZANU PF has hit back at Malema's statement. The party says it is concerned about the xenophobic statement currently circulating attributed to EFF, particularly targeting Zimbabweans, Pakistanis and Nigerians, and that South Africa should demonstrate against them for taking their jobs. ZANU PF says that should be more of Julius Malema's concern right now than Zimbabwe's democratically elected president. The party says until Zimbabweans themselves say they want Mugabe, Malema or anyone for that matter has no right to make those unfortunate statements. On the coward comment, ZANU PF says the party members are not cowards, but a party that abides to the dictates of the constitution and the voices of the masses of Zimbabweans. And if you've just missed it, news just coming in now. ZANU PF has responded to Malema's statement. The party says it is concerned that the xenophobic statement currently circulating attributed to the EFF, particularly targeting Zimbabweans, Pakistanis and Nigerians, and that South Africans should demonstrate against them for taking their jobs. ZANU PF says that should be more of Julius Malema's concern right now rather than Zimbabwe's democratically elected president. The party says until Zimbabweans themselves say they want Mugabe to go, Malema or anyone for that matter has no right to make those unfortunate statements. On the coward comment, ZANU PF says the party members are not cowards, but a party that abides to the dictates of the constitution and the voices of the masses of Zimbabweans. And joining us is Africa Tonight anchor Audrey Chimwanda. Thanks so much, Audrey, for your time. Just this spat now between ZANU PF and EFF, and of course with the concerns that the xenophobic statement or allegations thereof could result in potential violence. Just your response.
Obviously a very strong worded response there from the ZANU PF chair here in South Africa, making it very clear that it is not Malema's place to tell Zimbabweans when Mugabe must go, and is a democratically elected leader, and he will stay that way until the people of Zimbabwe go back to the polls that's next year in 2018 and vote. As you know, that Mugabe has been chosen once again by the ruling party ZANU PF to be the candidate running for ZANU PF president and ultimately for presidency in Zimbabwe. Just a very confusing sentiments there coming from Julius Malema. If you remember, a couple of years ago, he was singing praises for President Robert Mugabe, just alluding to just being very headstrong and fighting the West. And of course, others have alluded to his visit to the United Kingdom, where he's supposed to have had this controversial meeting with the imperialists there. And this is how he has now come back and calling for a regime change in Zimbabwe. Some of them saying that he's speaking on behalf of the British imperialists that is supposed to have met there. If we see what's been happening here in South Africa as well, his silence on ABSA, others alluding his stance on ABSA and not asking them to pay back the money as well on that visit to the United Kingdom. And we just wait to see what happens when it comes to elections in 2018. What happens now going forward with the relationship between ZANU PF and economic freedom fighters? Well, it remains very sketchy. Back to you, Cindy.
Audrey, but the supremacy of and the independence of Zimbabwe also cannot be threatened or necessarily controlled from the other side of the borders, in the sense, as you're saying, that it's a democratic process that brought Robert Mugabe there, and the impression, I suppose, maybe conventional wisdom is that he's still imposing himself, and that the general masses or Zimbabwean population does not want him as leader. Can you give us a perspective there?
Oh, absolutely, Cindy. Like they said, it's not his place to call on who should be leading Zimbabwe, especially from across the border, also saying that they will not stoop low to Malema's comments and even respond to that, because as far as they're concerned, he's still very young in politics and wet behind the ears, so to speak. So they will not be responding to him. Mugabe, a revolutionary leader who obviously is a leader of a revolutionary party that is in very close ties with the ANC, and they remain seeing him that way and respecting him in that regard.
All right, so you could say that there is some political grandstanding, if you will, as you rightfully say, that the ANC government is in support of the ZANU PF party and you know, especially the revolutionary aspect of dealing with matters concerning society in Zimbabwe. But having said that, though, what about the also the aspersions made around the Nigerians and Pakistanis, the criticism of Zimbabweans, and you know, the threat that they're taking away a livelihood from South Africans? We've heard this talk before. The Human Rights Commission and many other organizations had warned against necessarily fueling a potential outburst of xenophobic attacks.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a letter that has been circulating on social media that apparently came from the Society of South Africans in Gauteng, Johannesburg, to be specific, that says that they want to have a meeting with the Home Affairs Minister, Malusi Gigaba, again alluding to the fact that what they feel is Zimbabweans taking their jobs, Nigerians and other nationals from Africa who are coming into South Africa, trying to eke out a living. And this is, we've got a word, though, from the Zimbabwean Embassy and from the Home Affairs Minister himself saying that there is no such letter that came from him. So the response from ZANU PF that alludes to the fact that this could spark xenophobic attacks is actually in response to this fake newsletter that has been circulating on social media.
Okay, but having said that, the relations, though, especially as you mentioned, diplomatic ties and trade that we have, and the closeness of or proximity of Zimbabwe to South Africa is something that has to be guarded, not only from a political level, but how we interact as community members in the diaspora and also locally. I mean, if you were to give our viewers a sense of the stability when it comes to how foreign nationals, and it pains me to say foreign nationals when they're African, but you know what I mean, in how we cordially coexist in South Africa. Oh,
yes, Cindy, absolutely. That would be the ideal situation that one would expect neighboring countries to interact, especially given the historic situation that we found ourselves in with the apartheid era, how countries like Zimbabwe, even as far as Nigeria, took part in making sure that apartheid is eradicated in South Africa. And then we see this day and age where perhaps we have the new generation that doesn't quite understand how South Africa liberated itself from apartheid era, and how we have all these countries who contributed to the success of that. But it's an ongoing process. People are being educated on how important it is for us to live in a global community, not just Zimbabwe and South Africa, but as a continent.
All right, Audrey, you're going to leave it there. Thanks indeed. That's ANN7 anchor and anchor of Africa Tonight, Audrey Chimwanda, giving us her the update, rather, on analysis on the response from the ZANU PF in response to Julius Malema's statement that the old man must go and that the party is made up of a bunch of cowards.